ASHB's quarterly Smart Home Council webinar meeting. My name is Marta Klopotowska. I am the Program's Communications Manager here at ASHB. I'll be emceeing the slides. Note that today's webinar meeting is being recorded. We will circulate the presentation slides along with the recording to those that are in attendance today and to anyone who is not but has registered. Just quickly go through the agenda before I pass it off to our chair, Ken Wax. We'll begin with a call to order, welcome, introductions about the Smart Home Council, go over a few administrative tasks. We will also update those in attendance on the research that ASHB is working on in the smart home space. And then, of course, what most of you, if not almost all of you, are here for today, our keynote. Hemant Sarma, Strategic Advisor, Smart Home and Smart Building Ecosystems, will be speaking on from smart homes to safer homes, how IoT is changing insurance, risk, and property protection. And then we'll follow that up with couple of our programs here at ASHB, our podcast, white papers, journal, any new business, of course, and just a couple event announcements. And then finally, we will adjourn. With that, I will pass it off to our chair, Ken Wax.
Marta, thank you very much, and I'd like to welcome everyone to this meeting of the ASHB Smart Home Council. I'm Ken Wax. I run a management consulting practice advising companies on home automation, building control, and energy management. I also chair the world standards body for ISO and IC, writing standards to help promote international trade in these fields. We have a full program today, and I'd like to tell you a bit about the Smart Home Council. It was established by ASHB and its predecessor, the Continental Automated Buildings Association, CABA, in 2004. The Smart Home Council at ASHB initiates and reviews projects that relate to connected home and multiple dwelling unit technologies and applications. The Smart Home Council also examines industry opportunities that can accelerate the adoption of new technologies, consumer electronics, and broadband services within the burgeoning connected home market. Smart Home Council webinars and selected research topics explore industry shaping trends and forces and the uses of technology to make connected homes more flexible, adaptable, and human-centric. First, a few administrative matters. We keep minutes of these meetings, and Marta has circulated the past meetings. They're also available at ashb.com/shc. We had a meeting last on March 3rd of this year. I'd like to know if there are any objections to approving the minutes as they've been posted. Having heard no objections in the past few seconds, I declare the minutes were approved by consensus. Of course, if you have any objections, we'll deal with it. But for now, I hear no objections. So, Marta, please consider the minutes approved. We run the Smart Home Council and the companion Smart Building Council with a chair and a number of vice chairs. We happen to have some openings for vice chairs on the Smart Home Council. So if any of you would like to volunteer, please let Marta know. And now we'll turn to Greg Walker for an update on ASHB research.
Thanks, Ken. So the Smart Home Council, every year we do one collaborative research project. Essentially, we crowdfund research in the space. And this is a continuation of the 2025 research. And we're looking for funders to participate in this research project. So essentially, it's a $50,000 research project that can be you can participate in for $5,000 or $10,000, depending if you want to join get the full research, you pay $5,000. And if you want to participate and shape the research project, participate in the steering committee meetings and get the final webinar presentation and a webinar just for your organization is at the $10,000 level. But essentially, we're doing similar to the Gartner hype curve, but it's a smart home trends and adoption and technology adoption curve, and doing a survey out to 500 consumers across North America, and providing a consumer report and getting the perspective on the space. These are actual individuals and not AI models. And then we're doing a deeper dive into four specific topics. I think one of them is the AI in the space. It depends on the steering committee in terms of their decisions, but it could be energy management systems, could be as a service models, things like that, and then providing additional reports based on those outcomes. So this year we have a much heavier focused on AI and then associated cybersecurity. So if anybody's interested in joining this particular research, getting involved and getting the full research project, definitely reach out to myself at walker@ashb.com or Marta, and we can make sure we have a follow-up call and to really show you what the research project's about. But it's definitely a cost-effective way to do research in terms of getting a full $50,000 worth of research for as little as $5,000 or $10,000, depending on your funding level. But this is a continuation of a 2025 project, and we're going to do it on an annual basis for the next few years, we believe. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself, and if you'd like to have a call to discuss what the research involves, and let me know. Thanks a lot.
Great. Thanks, Greg. I'll take over, Ken.
Okay.
Thank you. Now for our featured speaker. Today, we will have Hemant Sarma, who is a strategic advisor at Smart Home and Smart Building Ecosystems. He will speak on how connected solutions such as leak detection, fire prevention, environmental monitoring, and security systems are helping reduce property damage, improve safety, and provide new opportunities for data-driven risk management. The session will examine how insurers, property owners, and other stakeholders will benefit from real-time insights and verified sensor data as the industry shifts towards predictive prevention strategies. Hemant?
Yeah, thank you, Marta. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I can run my slides, or if you want to continue as well, that's fine.
Up to you, whichever you prefer.
Okay, let me give it a shot on my end first,
Sure, of course.
and if it works, that's great. Otherwise, I'll hand
No
it over to
worries.
you. Okay, all right, here we go. So replace sender request. So I'm sending you a request to share. Okay. All right. Can you see my slides now?
Yes, we can.
Yep, looks fine.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Marta. As a brief introduction, I retired as a senior property and casualty insurance executive from the largest publicly traded insurance company in the US, Chubb. And I currently serve as a board member and advisor to insurtech companies. I have over 40 years of experience across underwriting, product management, risk engineering, innovation, and emerging tech. After several underwriting roles during this tenure, I created and led Chubb's IoT practice, exploring various use cases, and in the last 4+ years, led the acquisition and transition of an IoT company called Streamlabs in the leak detection space. I just want to make sure that everybody is seeing my slide that speaks to the introduction. Are we good with that?
Your title slide is up.
Okay, perfect. We're now into the loss problem slide.
Yeah, you just switched the slide, the loss problem.
Okay, cool. So let me start with the scale of the problem that the insurance industry deals with or handles, and the loss, especially with regards to what I would describe as non-weather water damage losses. And I'm focused on that primarily in the home space right now, obviously, to talk about what the payout has been. So typically, the insurance losses are broken into two categories. One, there are losses that are considered what we call catastrophic losses. You consider earthquakes, hurricanes, wildfires. These are typical cat losses. And then there's a second category, which we call non-cat losses. And within this category, the leading driver are what are the non-weather water damage losses. And the numbers are on the slide here. In 2017 alone, the insurance industry paid over $13 billion in water damage losses for both residential and commercial buildings. For residential, it was almost half of those losses to the tune of $8 billion. Can you imagine? I mean, these are simple pipe breaks, toilet leaks, overflow of sump pumps that are not caused by any weather events, right? Such as floods or hurricane, right? So these are very simple losses that happens inside in a four wall or building or home. And again, think about this. This is $13 billion of property losses. And if you add, in my estimation, those numbers are lower. If you add what we call liability losses, because you are leaking upon somebody in high-rise building, you're likely to have more losses than just this, right? So 1 in 50 homeowners likely to have a loss. And the average payout for the industry is $13,000. And the interesting thing is that 93% of these losses could be prevented by early detection. And that's where I would like to focus my comments and thoughts. Again, this is not a natural disaster problem. It's a technology adoption and response problem, and it's solvable. And that's why it's exciting. Let me focus on some other comments about where I came from, the large segment high net worth carriers. As you can see in this slide, for high-end homeowners, it's the second most common cause of loss for the homeowners industry between 2013 and 17. That was the number. The mean loss is $90,000, and I will come back to this because it really makes the ROI case even stronger. And then you can think about 20% of these losses are triggered from water damage, freeze losses. The other interesting fact here is the fact that the trend line is actually increasing from year 2015. It's $500,000 and increasing. That's where the challenge has become. And again, these are losses that are predictable and can be prevented. Pause here for any questions or comments, any reactions.
What's the largest source of loss?
So it's a combination. Usually in a home, you got the dishwasher to the washer dryer. That has a much bigger aperture of water coming out. But it's a combination. All that drives all these home. We've done extensive studies on whether on the commercial building, what drives those losses. In a multifamily is one of the bigger drivers in the residential space because of the high-rise nature. You have a single unit, multiple people living in it, that really drives most of these losses.
Could I ask, this is David, one of our leak detection companies, they offer a shutoff valve, but nobody wants to pay the extra. How do we get that recognized? And so that it isn't, oh, I called the guy, he got in his car, he came and he found the $1 million damage. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting question, David. And let me come back to that. And I actually am focused on that as well, right? That's the adoption is driver of the challenge here. We all know the problem is, right? So thanks for the question. I just wanted to pinpoint, what are some real life examples of this? I mean, clearly, as I said, earlier, high rise, this is an example where Rocky Hill, story elicits how frozen sprinkler pipes, which is typically in Northeast where I reside in New Jersey, you often see this, snaps wherever. And then this is a challenge with high rise buildings. As I said earlier, it has a high frequency, and that's kind of driving some of the underwriting decisions for high-rise buildings, especially in New York and Northeast, most of the Northeast. And the other interesting thing about this loss in Texas in 2021, it's a micro version of the same problem we see on a catastrophic scale. So it is getting to that scale of, in terms of severity, what we call to 10 to 15 billion dollar. That's the estimate from the Texas Department of Insurance. Again, the New York City Gallery is another example which I would like to highlight, is that small plumbing event can damage much more than what you can impact from a single source of loss. So the key lesson here that over the years that I've been as an underwriter focused on is you can increase the deductible, you can increase the rates for a renewal. What is the solution for all this, right? So ultimately, in my opinion, at that point, which is what led to where I am today, early detection is the key to prevent catastrophic losses. And that's where I want to talk about as well. But before we get there, there are four, I would call it a layered risk control system that we have seen evolve over the years. So water and moisture, pretty straightforward. There are leak pucks, there are flow monitors, shut-off valves out there, and all these are paired to prevent a loss becoming catastrophic. Smoke and fire has been in place for years and years, and that's kind of the direction where I see leak detection going as well. Temp and humidity has been a driver, especially for vacation and unoccupied properties. And of course, now with all the cameras and everything else, I see a lot of that going on in security entry. And in terms of connectivity, what I've seen is that it spans all the way from the Wi-Fi, Zigbee, Sigfox is another one of those, of course, cellular, and then LoRaWAN. LoRaWAN is long range, wide area network, more prevalent on the commercial smart building space than homes. But clearly there's a space for that because it can really carry a lot of these sensors and much more robust than a Wi-Fi. At the end of the day, it's the action layer that really drives what the real-time alerting should happen, whether it's the automatic shut-off response or end-to-end workflow for homeowners, manager, whatever, for a thing. So the action layer, what drives, this is where the value is created. So sensor without connectivity does not report. A connectivity without an action layer is just notification, just like smoke detectors. So insurance carriers gives more discount or credits when an alert is automatically acted upon, such as automatic shut-off valve, as David mentioned, that gets actuated when an unusual flow is detected. So at the end of the day, the goal is to compress the timeline from an abnormal condition to human or automated response. That's the goal. That's what we need to get to. I wanted to give you a snapshot of course, this is not an overview of the entire market, but just a few categories of what I find in the market, just to summarize that. So you get standalone sensors. You can buy them a bundle, 5 of these in any of these Amazon stores for less than $100 or $200. The challenge with those is that although they are affordable, they're easy to install, but they're only alerting on your phone or giving audible alarm. What happens if you're not there, right? What happens if your neighbor is not there and who's going to attend to that leak? And insurers typically don't prefer such sensor system. Then there is sensor shut-off valve with a inline valve, which is becoming more and more popular. But then there's still the challenge is that you need a shut-off and you need a plumber to install these as well, right? So that becomes a challenge. As a result, you have these whole home monitors out there. Streamlabs is the company out there, and there are a few others like that. Again, it's not a marketing for them. But then the whole home monitors offer a non-invasive flow monitoring solution, whether it's an ultrasonic or whatever, but it does provide water intelligence, but without the shut-off capability. It's like your smoke detectors. finally, the whole home system, along with sensors, is what you really need to protect the home from any of these catastrophic losses. So at the end of the day, the right solution depends on your property type, your occupancy, and the risk profile that you're ultimately trying to manage. So this is just a snapshot of what's out there in the market. There are a lot of different combinations. One of the challenges with the sensor with auto shut off is that the sensor has to detect the water, and water needs to be nearby the sensor. It's only when the actuator works. So that's one challenge there. Pause here for any thoughts or comments. Otherwise, I'll keep going.
This is Ken Wax. I got an opportunity to save a little on my homeowner's insurance on two steps. One was a leak detector and the other was a shutoff valve. So when I approached my plumber about the shutoff valve, he basically said, "We do plumbing, we don't do electronics." And of course, you speak to an engineer, an electrical engineer, and they say, "We don't know anything about plumbing." So it's like water and oil don't mix here.
Yeah.
Let me add to this. And in multi-res, we found that the way it was piped originally doesn't allow for a designated single source unless you have to have a lot of shutoff valves. And we have condos that won't allow it. So I think we have to overcome that challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. So Ken, to your comment, they are what I call smart plumbers nowadays. So yes, it is a challenge. Most plumbers don't like to get engaged in that, because most of these devices, the one that Streamlabs has, the whole home, it's called a control device. It's half electronic, half plumbing. The top half is electronic, the bottom half is plumbing. Yes, it is a challenge there. The other challenge with installing for the plumbers is that they don't like to get follow-up calls. One of the experience of the calls we used to get is, "Oh, I forgot my Wi-Fi password." And that was one of the key questions we used to answer all the time in customer service, right? So the plumbers would get the first line of call, and they don't like that. They just want to be in and out. They want to get this done, install whatever device they have, heater, water heater.
My
Right?
plumber made it clear to me he wants to hear from me on emergencies, not routines.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a challenge. Yeah, and it's hard. It's one of the biggest challenges for standing up the company in Streamlabs for me was to find the right plumbers out there, right? They're far and few between, but setting up a network was one of the bigger challenges there. So we did ultimately get there by really training, educating some of these plumbers, and having an in-house team of customer service professionals who can actually understand and walk them through. But it's always a challenge. I agree with you again. So this is just a blueprint of where typical placements occurs. Don't want to spend a whole lot of time here, but the question is, where is can the flow-based shut off? Question is that, can it stop the water at the source automatically? If it's an HOA or family settings, who is authorized to enter a unit? I want to speak a little bit more about multifamily, as that's one of the big challenges I've encountered as an underwriter. And then, finally, whether can you document what happened, when, and what was done? It's that documentation that really converts a sensor from a gadget, I would call it, to an underwriting asset. And that's where the key is. And I don't believe the industry is there yet, but I want to speak to that as well. So talking about how insurers are evaluating connected homes today. So insurers are not rewarding the presence of smart technology. They're evaluating behavior change. So let me walk you through the 5 steps here. So adoption, right? So in terms of adoption, whether the device is installed in the right location, as I said in the previous chart, is the activation in place? Whether monitoring is happening, who's monitoring? Is there a control station? Do they get the call? Is it monitored on your cell phone? Who responds to it? One example is what we call 10-10-10. So in a home that one of my previous employers would insure is a 10-acre property, 10,000 square feet, and the homeowner lives only 10 days in a year, right? So how do you manage homes like that who responds to it. That's where the automatic shut-off valve, automatic response comes into play. And then the key thing about maintenance, again, are these maintained properly? Do they work? Do they are up? What is the uptime? What's the heartbeat of these sensors? These are critical questions that insurers are very interested in learning about it. And at the end, can you prove, that this alert or intervention typically works or not? So, for example, a device that was installed 18 months ago has a dead battery and hasn't reported anything in 6 months. It's not a real risk reduction asset anymore. And it's typically not eligible for what we call discount, right? So the question again becomes, does the home behave differently after the device is installed? And that's where the actuaries, on a portfolio level, evaluate whether it's before and after. Again, the insurance motivation, industry motivation differs from those of the device manufacturers, installers, and others, which are often missed by the industry. And that is the point I wanted to make here. So one question is about, what are the data collection path? And this is pretty straightforward. The data is collected through variety of different ways. You have, you got the carrier sponsored devices, vendor partnership that happens out there, the portals out there, the app integrations. And then the underwriting variables are typically, what's the device type, where it's installed, all the questions that are typically answered. And then, what we use these for, where ultimately is risk selection, pricing, renewal terms, and deductible. And again, that's where the industry needs to go. And at the end of the day, it's obviously consent and privacy. So most, I would call it, carriers and installers are in the early stage. You own a device, you activate it, you get a discount. That's pretty much it. Where we want to go, and that's where I guess David was talking about, how do you actively monitor and how do you respond and how do you avoid the losses? That's where the renewal and underwriting decisions are made. And then finally, this is where AI is being helpful now, especially in the construction space where you have data that comes in. Can you use a large language model to be able to identify our target areas and intervene before that happens? And that's where the industry needs to go, where in terms of getting large language models involved. I think I jumped a slide. So again, just to wrap up, this is what data gets collected, what underwriting basically is looking at a link between that deployment that lowers the frequency of a loss, lower the severity, and then makes it better. And that's the ROI. Can you put an underwriter, can you put a homeowner into a preferred tier, which is what they do. If you have multiple losses and you have multiple already high deductible, you're likely to not be renewed in the environment we are today. So insurance companies do a lot of these where they try to involve the homeowner into this process. Again, so the business case is for building what I call a verified data pipeline between the sensor vendor and the carriers. Again, that's the missed opportunity in my mind that I've seen over the years. So the question is verification challenge. You get a 3% credit if you install a sensor. You get up to 8 to 9, 10% credit if you install an automatic shut-off valve. But then, how do you get verified? That's the challenge there. So as a result, the question that was asked earlier about, what carrot and sticks, solutions that the insurers have for adoption. So carriers have used a variety of different, incentive programs. We would give out free devices, sensors, discounted automatic shut-off valve, premium credit, obviously that's part of it, deductible credit, especially for commercial buildings, repair credits, you pay up to $5,000 for a water damage loss, including installation. So all that falls into it. And then the sticks, obviously, requirement, especially for the large 5 million plus home, you need a shut-off valve. Otherwise, high-end carriers like Chubb, AIG, Zurich, Cincinnati, travelers would not insure you because you don't have a water shut-off valve in your house. So there are a lot of non-renewal pressures on the broker just because they have a customer that has all these losses. So at the end of the day, the balance is a combination between the friction that you have the insurer and the insured is to provide active monitoring and maintenance and be able to prove that. That's where the example comes into play. So just to wrap up this comment here, these are some examples, pretty standard. You do a Google search on that. The interesting is the State Farm Ting. Ting is a micro arcing device there's several actually carriers are now offering to the homeowners at no extra cost. The device costs roughly $500. It does detect and micro arcing in your house and gives you heads up. Nationwide, as a smart home, they provide you free sensors, USA, Residio combination. They are actually been in place for a while for a lot of the high-end value homes and the military segments. Chubb offers 8% credit for home and automatic shut-off valve and a 3% credit for sensors. So the direction of the way the industry is going is very clear. More and more industries are building connected home programs, and these programs offer what I call verified data integration to have a better risk and have a better loss ratio. So the ROI question is often asked, what's my ROI? Why should I install these devices? And oftentimes the headline is the premium discount. And it's not really the most important number, I would say. Premium credit, I just mentioned 8% for shut off. And the payback for 8% credit, at least in my case, it was 6 years to get back what I installed it for. But the main thing is you avoid the deductible, right? Which typically exceeds anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000 for a good. So you can actually pay back for a system within the deductible. I think the other important thing is the avoidance of disruption. And as I said earlier, you protect your premium, you protect your assets. So the formula for ROI in my mind is an avoided deductible, avoided uncovered repair, which sometimes you don't get paid for it. The disruption, you have to live outside your home for months and months, plus the water saving, depending upon which part of the world you are, and especially in the Western states where water is an energy challenge there. All this becomes a cost calculation for ROI. So at the end of the day, it's the how the message is very clear. The loss avoidance is not, and not the premium credit, is the closing argument that I usually make. So
just to build on that, the challenge is when apartment 602 leaks, it hits 502 and damages them. In multi-res and stacked units, that's the challenge. Where does the water go?
Yeah. Since you mentioned that, let me talk about multifamily here, right? You're right about that, David. One leak travels, and I have an example during COVID. One of our insureds in New York City, a 4-story boutique hotel, water ran after to the sidewalk. That's when somebody discovered there's a leak in the building. $10 million later, we found out that the leak was on the top floor of the unit of the hotel, right? It's a massive expensive loss that we paid on those scenarios. And the losses get complex because you have a unit owner, you've got the master policy for the common area, you've got multiple contractors working on it. And then each one of them has a separate deductible. Each becomes a very much more complicated thing. One of the solutions I have recently seen is the active involvement of the HOA in one of the high-rise buildings in Chicago. The homeowner association had to change the language in the agreement so that they can decide what solution they can want to go with, and that has been one of the solutions that I've seen has worked so far. So the best answer is, a shared playbook between the common area sensors, as well as in-unit sensors, and having ability for the building security or somebody to walk into the building and say, hey, can I take a look at this? What's going on there, right? That has been one of the things that has worked for in my past. And then the other question that I have often asked is who bears the cost of this, right? So for a homeowner, they buy the device, they get a discount or sometimes a better outcome. So the best is, going with the low cost DIY install. That's what I find works for them. The carriers find that, they want to fund these devices so that they get a better loss prevention outcome. HOAs, for them, it's been the fund, the common area, the risers. Unit owner may fund their own sensors, but best is the multi-unit water loss exposure prevention. Builders, I'm engaged in one of those right now. We are putting sensors and cameras both, in fact, in the construction and the operational phase. They really work best for communities built to rent. And from a vendor perspective, it's, how do you provide a maintenance monitoring, maybe include a subscription cost if that's possible. So again, the challenge has been, the share across the value system, ecosystem as I call it. Again, these are, I just mentioned them as well. So ultimately the industry is going from, detection to prevention is what I was talking about. And I would argue that most of the solutions today are in the detect and alert stage, getting to detect and response. And again, and then the predictive prevention space, which is where AI is coming in. A lot of industries are starting to use this more and more to predict the losses even before occur. And then finally, the stage of continuous underwriting. I don't think we're there yet. It'll take some time for a lot of data to be collected and used to be able to get there. So at the end of the day, just to wrap up, the shift has been going from detection to response to prevention. And so sequence of event describes a progression that most smart home technologies they're not there yet. Obviously, detection is necessary, but not sufficient. Response requires, both a pre-established protocol if in multifamily or authorized actions. And again, so the insurance value starts to appear at the intersection when technology demonstrates that claim frequency, severity, response time ultimately reduces everything. So losses, I would say. So that's where the industry is going. And again, that's pretty much what I wanted to share with you. Again, the market is moving. Carriers, builders, tech companies, property managers who engage with this seriously, perhaps will get a leg up on how connected homeowners would work. So pause, end of my comments. Love to take any questions.
I have a question, and again, a client whose basement has flooded twice, and his sump pump didn't go on because he didn't have it battery backup. Yeah. So where is the flood cause? When the home is this covered under a different plan?
The flood is a separate coverage in the homeowner's policy. So, but that's not flood, by the way. That's not a definition of flood.
Like the water comes in because there was flooding and it goes into the basements and that's water damage to their basement, which they should have had a sump pump. Well, they have a pump, but in this case, the pump didn't work because it wasn't. Yeah. Because usually it's a power failure that causes the flood, which makes the pump not be able to work without a battery backup.
Yeah. So you typically I've seen 4-8 hours battery backup on these automatic valves right now. And especially in large, where there's a storm event, whether it's winter storm like that happened in 2021 in Texas, and it happened in 24 as well. If snap happens for 4 days, there's no power, your freeze starts to freeze up, and then you have losses, right? So you do need a backup. Sometimes even that doesn't work. So one of the solutions that we came up with was installing sensors in the attic. Typically in Texas, they have all the water softener water heater in the attic, and which is often unheated. The homes are heated or not even that, but the point is the sensor in the attic triggers a shut-off valve, and that shuts it off, right? That solution, after several $100 million, is what we came up with.
Do you have any, this is Ken, do you have any plans to work with builders so sensors are part of the infrastructure of the home or apartment building?
Yeah, they are coming up. Moen is one big. They have all the plumbing devices or faucets and everything else are owned by them. They bought a company, Flow by Moen. They've integrated the company into their devices. So yeah, more and more builders are installing these solutions, and more it's coming in into the discussion. And it starts from, as I said earlier, in the construction phase. You've got cameras in the construction that detects unusual, like people not wearing protective devices, or we're not wearing hard hats and working on without the harness, right? So, and then when the building is operational or in the phase or construction phase, you have sensors out there. So a lot of adoption I've seen over the last 5, 6 years now. The industry is sponsoring, as I said earlier, with paying for it, and insurance companies are giving a substantial incentive to be able to install these devices, so that again, customers find it. A lot of the handholding goes on with that as well.
Any other questions for Hemant?
Ken, I think we have a question in the question box. I'm not sure if this was already answered, from Frank Spitzer. Any sense to age or properties ratio of personal versus corporate properties? Any difference US versus Canada?
I'm sorry, I missed the first part, Marta.
Any sense to age or properties ratio of personal versus corporate properties?
Personal versus commercial, maybe, yeah. It's pretty much equal in terms of what I've seen, the loss distribution. Commercial, the big drivers of commercial losses are multifamily, if you call them that. The study that we did, sometimes almost 10+ years ago now, 20% of all losses for property globally were coming from water damage losses, not just uh, in the US, in Canada and outside the US as well. That problem, the ratio has remained pretty much the same in terms of what we've seen. And then the driver of these losses, obviously, aging infrastructure. The pipes are older. Maintenance has been an issue. Construction quality of the construction has been an issue. Usually, home buildings that are almost ready to be handed over by the developer or the builder or general contractor, that's when the losses happen, right? So a lot of that goes on at the time, and that's in the indication of rising deductible. The insurance industry is trying to prevent themselves by saying, hey, you take a larger deductible. That's only when we insure you. The rates have gone up. I've seen in my career for 30+ years, there used to be one deductible between water damage and what we call fire and all other peril. That deductible is no longer the same. Water damage has its own separate deductible, just like earthquake and others have. That's an indication of how industry has been treating it. And my solution has been, what's the average saving we achieve through this technology? Uh, um, the average saving, the ROI for a automatic shut-off valve saving in terms of premium would be roughly 5 to 6 years is when you can recover your cost of installation when you do put up automatic shut-off valve. The sensors you don't get that much credit. You get up to 3% credit typically. So it takes a longer ROI, return on your investment, and that's what drives that process. And as I said earlier, it's not the punchline is not the saving on your premium. It's the loss avoidance. It's protecting your property. It's energy conservation. All that should drive into your discussion. And also depends on where you live. If you're in a northeast where you have a lot of temperature drops and low temperature winter storms, you should definitely have one. I missed another question out there. Sorry, Marta. There's a question on the chat.
Yes, there's actually a question in the Q&A box. What role does the insurance industry play in the billion-dollar mold, mildew, and wood rot remediation industry in the high humidity South?
That's a great question. So the mold is a there's obviously coverage for that. So first of all, let me back up. It's a coverage question. Obviously, depends on the contract as well. But the point is, you could detect mold conditions. You can't detect presence of mold because I don't think there are sensors out there. But you could detect a potential mold, uh, uh, you know, condition, if you will, if you have high temperature, if you have a longer duration of the temperature, and high humidity. So there are sensors out there today that are being deployed that are able to detect that and give you a report that there's a condition of mold is likely to be there, right? So industry does push that a lot in terms of mold. I'm forgetting whether coverage of mold is covered peril or not. Excuse me for that. But then, there's a lot of ways you can actually detect mold conditions.
We have a couple more actually. Do you see any products currently using Matter or Thread as wireless option?
Product using, sorry. Oh yeah.
Do you see any products currently using Matter or Thread as a wireless option?
I have not seen that. I have not seen that yet, but it doesn't make. I mean,
This is Ken. I can comment because the urging of my insurance company, put in a leak detector, and it uses LoRa.
Yeah, LoRaWAN.
LoRaWAN, yes, even though I'm not going long distance, but that's what they chose, so they weren't dependent on Bluetooth or Wi-Fi.
Correct.
Bluetooth is probably too short. Wi-Fi is too crowded.
Correct. LoRaWAN has a large, according to their, I've installed a lot of these LoRaWAN sensors and gateways in commercial buildings. So you need one gateway or hub for every other floor, and you can install up to hundreds of sensors into one gateway.
Right. That's the brand I have is Yolink.
Yolink. Okay. Yeah, that's a LoRaWAN. Is a basic order plan? I'm sorry, I don't know, Anushka, your question. Is a basic order plan 30-minute meeting? Oh, yeah. Well, which industry would you consider low-hanging fruit for this technology? The low-hanging fruit is obviously in terms of commercial building. I would say Prasad. It's an and then within the commercial space, what I found is the owner, rather than the operator, the CBRE, JLLs of the world, and or the investor, who obviously churn their property every 5 to 7 years, depending upon who they are likely to adopt more of these technology. I have multiple examples of owner of buildings who really go after make sure that the building is protected because they don't sell their buildings. That's to me that would be low-hanging fruit out there. Okay. Those are the questions I see on the chat box. David, appreciate your calling in. And you can always reach me. I'll leave you have my number. I can send it to Marta. Happy to continue the dialogue or any other questions people may have. I live and breathe this stuff. I've been doing this for years. I enjoy this, and that's why I'm here. And happy to engage in at any level.
Hemant, this is Norman Toms from the Hartford Steam Boiler. I don't believe we've had the opportunity to meet before, but I'd love to engage a little bit more with you around some of the work that we're doing. It addresses some of the concerns that you had brought up earlier. Not all of them, but some of them. Real quick, we're working with large OEM appliance manufacturers. Most people have appliances in their house. These appliances are set up to receive incredible pieces of data around temperature and water leaking and whatnot. And getting access to that data is helping us understand and mitigate risk inside the home. So I'd love to chat with you a little bit more about that. And the other point I wanted to bring up is, and maybe it's another discussion that we can have offline. I believe, the health industry did a great job collecting information about humans, and we've really come down to do you smoke, right? And that really helps us understand the health of a human. Inside the home, I have a belief that it has to do with occupancy, and understanding occupancy inside that home is a great proxy for understanding the risk that the home can dwell on. And I think understanding appliance data gives us a really great proxy into understanding occupancy. And I'd love to share or talk a little bit more about that with you.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Absolutely. And you're right about the appliance proxy, sensors inside the home, can detect, who's there, what's going on. I'm sure you have as well. By the way, I've used Hartford Steam Boiler as my first vendor, if you will.
Great. And I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
I think you'll provide your email or some method of contact, and I'd love to reach out and just get your thoughts and share some of the work that we're doing in this space. I think it's germane to what you spoke about today. Again, I don't think we address all of the concerns, but we have some answers, especially around sensor installation. Everybody has a refrigerator or a washing machine,
right.
and there's incredible data. And we've written a spec right now for the appliance industry, helping to define how we can get that data, and we're actively getting it out of appliances that really give us a strong view, not just around occupancy, but temperature and leakage, as to what's going on inside the home.
You're right. And then also the appliance manufacturers are starting to adopt more of that, like hot water heaters are coming with sensors nowadays, right? You can regulate any of those. I think one of the big culprits in my underwriting days was the dishwashers. Was a big brand name. I wouldn't use the name. Their dishwashers were leaking all the time, and we were underwriting them as best as we could, but they really needed a technology solution. This is several years ago now, right? So that's where the industry should go. I would say, installing automatic, whether it's a shut-off valve inside the unit or outside the unit, whatever, it should come with it. When you pay a couple of $1,000 for some of these high-end.
This is Ken. I would point out, last time I bought a washing machine, the steel hoses were an extra purchase. Otherwise, it was rubber hoses that, what happens over time, they crack.
Yeah. No, this is interesting. I mean, that again, the coming from the insurance angle, right? The motivation for the insurance industry is somewhat, I would call it, different than just an OEM or anybody else out there, right? I've seen in my experience that a lot of these sensor companies will come and install it, and for them, that's the end of the game. For an underwriter, that's not the end of the game. That's the beginning, right? We need the data. We need to be able to understand. We need to do a before and after with the actual analysis to understand, right? Was it really worth it, right? That's where the starting point for us is.
Yep, I get it. And these appliance manufacturers that we're talking with, some of the largest in the world, are willing to listen to us, and we're Hartford Steam Boiler, we're actually giving them recommendations on components that we think should be installed inside these appliances to help mitigate risk. And I'll give you a quick view on that. A quick example is just a simple water pressure monitor, right? I mean, understanding pressure at night inside of a house, it shouldn't change, right? Everything should be closed. It should be a fixed number. And these appliances are sitting there dormant. They can measure that water pressure, and they can give us a clear indicator as to whether there's a small leak happening inside of a house.
The difference between can and will is who's paying for it.
Yeah, that's one of the things I was trying to address as well. But Ken, the study that we did was on especially on the commercial side, not on the residential side. When the
You're going to
deductibles,
find residential costs are extremely sensitive among appliance makers.
yes,
Every nickel matters.
yeah, they do. But that's what the carrot is, the deductible, right? That's what the insurance industry uses. But I'll drop my my email address here, or maybe on the Marta. What's the best way to do it? I can send it to you, and you can circulate that. Happy to do that. My contact, and happy to talk more about it.
Yeah, so maybe in the chat box right now, just so whoever wants to, they can have access to it now. And then we can also circulate it in the minutes. So that will be on our website. And then also we'll follow up with an email with a link to that. And
the slides.
And then we'll add it to the slides as well. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
I will. This is David again. I just will add. There's one. We have a sensor company that has a communication better than LoRaWAN. It goes through many of the condo challenges in terms of concrete, and they've tied it to water leakage recovery or reporting. So I'm going to get them to join ASHB and make it, and I'll get in touch with you. Thank you.
That's
I'd love to, David. Let me know. I mean, I know you're kind of out of whatever. When you're ready, let me know. Love to talk to them. I think again, the bottom line for all this comment I made so far is the data. That's where we need to. That's where the industry is going. That's where we need to go. And without the data, it's not going to help.
Right.
So I appreciate the time and the opportunity, Ken and Greg and Marta. So love to, be engaged or anywhere else and answer any questions. So thank you for the time. I guess I'm dropping off here, so I'll talk to you guys later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Bye.
Ken, should I go ahead with the podcast?
Yes, please.
Thank you. That was great. So a couple of the programs that we have running here at ASHB, one of them, I should say, is our podcast. And we've been doing this now for a few years. We are, I believe, on episode possibly 30 at this point. And really any topic within the smart home, smart building space. Our episodes are very flexible in the sense that we can record them with pretty much anyone as long as the topic is relevant to the actual industry itself. So if you are interested in being a host or a guest, please reach out to us. You can email us at admin@ashb.com, or you can contact anyone here at ASHB. And, if you want to be a host and would like us to pair you with a guest, we could do that, or vice versa. If you have a specific topic in mind that you'd like to speak on, then certainly let us know and we will find you a host. Our most recent episode was with Nicholas Fonto of Loxon, who spoke with David Lopez of Grizzly Tech about how smart home technology supports individuals with autism, aging populations, and others with special needs. So that's just one of many topics that we address on our podcast. And again, it could be residential or commercial, or both actually, as long as it's within the space itself. So looking forward to hopefully speaking to some of you on here and potentially recording an episode with you all. Ken, I'll pass it off to you.
Marta, thank you. In addition to the podcast, ASHB is your resource for industry information, help you keep up to speed, help you keep current in your position. We have a large library of white papers that are divided into two categories. There's white papers that we create, we meaning the members of this committee. There is an opportunity for you to propose white papers. Typically, these are informative. They're not very long, typically 10 pages. If you have a lot to say, we can divide it into a series of white papers where you might introduce a topic, have a paper on technology, a paper on market development and commercialization. So those are white papers generated in this committee. If anyone has an idea for a topic, please contact Marta. We also survey the world of trade publications and even professional journals for papers relevant to the connected home space. We offer the opportunity for members to see our current library, and we open up the library to the public after the research papers have aged by about 3 years. So ASHB members get a 3-year advance view of papers in our library. Typically, the staff of ASHB will find potential candidates for the library, and then we asked ASHB members to review these papers, fill out a reviewer form indicating the pertinent data about the paper, including about 100-word summary, and most importantly, checking off keywords so that anyone coming to the library can ask for, say, papers on leak detection, and we would show you all the papers we've accumulated in that area. In consideration for your reviewing papers, we offer a token payment of $25 plus a credit of $25 towards purchases from ASHB. We ideally would like every ASHB member to review 3 papers a year. We'll leave that as the ideal. In fact, we have some dedicated reviewers who do quite a bit of reviews, but it is certainly open to everyone to participate in reviewing papers. Marta maintains the library of papers that are available for review, and she notifies the members periodically as that's updated. We also have a more formal publication we call the ASHB Journal, which are longer form papers. They could include a mix of text and illustrations. I think this is a very valuable asset of ASHB. I personally have supported it by supplying articles fairly regularly for the past 30 or so years. So please check out ASHB Journal. It's under marketing at the ASHB website. So, of course, if anyone has questions on the white papers, on the Publication Review Committee or the ASHB Journal, please contact Marta or please contact me. You can get my contact data at kenwax.com. That's KENWACKS.com. Now we ask if we have any new business ideas for new topics for white papers. We haven't done many white papers recently, so we have an opportunity. So what you do is propose a topic, maybe share some of your preliminary work with us, and then if you'd like us to advertise it and find a little committee to work with you, we'll set up a subcommittee that helps you develop your white paper, or maybe review your white paper, or make suggestions to attract a wider audience. So please keep that in mind. We're here to serve you. Remember, ASHB is the source of industry information. That's why this organization exists. So please bring up any new business anytime before the end of this meeting. Meanwhile, I will ask Marta about announcements. ASHB is very active in a number of industry functions. Marta? Marta?
Apologies for that. I
Okay.
was on mute. Thanks a lot, Ken. So some of the events that takes place within our space, of course, ASHB has some part in it, and or we promote those. So we will be at Unified by Connectivity Standards Alliance. That's taking place June 16th to the 18th. So that would be next week. And we will also be at CEDIA. We will have a booth, and that is taking place September 1st to the 4th, of course, in Denver, Colorado. I'm sure most of you are familiar with that one. There are two more that aren't as familiar, but definitely worth mentioning. We have the International Smart Space Exhibition, the ISSC, taking place in China in September. And then we also have the IoT Tech Expo, which is in Amsterdam in October, the 19th to the 20th. Ken, back to you. Ken, I'm not sure if we can't hear you. I'm not sure if you can hear us. Okay.
I don't hear him, Marta.
I think we've lost Ken.
Yeah, we lost.
No
Well,
worries.
so I'll bring up a topic because he asked for new business.
Sure, of course. Yeah.
So there's a big push now for modular homes. I actually went to China with Kaba initially, and they are so ahead of us in terms of constructing things in the factory without the weather, and modular homes, a big push here in Canada for homes, including in the US for veterans, etc. It's at that time that we could have the sensors in, that we could have the leak detection on the pipes, not after the building is built. So
Right.
I think we should, there are a number of companies that are dealing with it. There's big funding for modular homes. Might bring that out as a topic.
Great. Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks,
David,
Jason.
you're in charge. Draw up an abstract and we'll put a committee together, but you got to take the lead. How's that?
Okay, I knew you'd catch me.
No, actually, I've worked with the modular home community many, many years ago, working with the National Association of Home Builders, and I actually went to a factory. So I agree with David that modular homes are built quite sturdy because they have to be transported over highways from the factory to the building site.
I'll just add another thing, Ken, just because it's happening. Some of the utilities in the US, where they'll pay you to have your peak reduction, they'll talk to your Ecobee or your Nest or your Google thermostat.
Yeah, but the problem is that the uptake has been no more than 10% of the public.
Yeah, it's people don't want to get turned off. We're doing now in small and medium-sized commercial buildings, and they're paying just $75,000 at the end of the season for a megawatt of saving. But anyway, thank you. I'll be in touch.
Okay. So I think we've reached the end of our meeting. A last opportunity for anyone to bring up new business. We meet quarterly where Marta and I are working on dates in August. Actually, I have a date already penciled in, Marta.
Yes, I think we do actually.
I think I show August 13th.
Let me just double check here on my end. I'm pretty sure we do. Yes, we do. August 13th would be the date.
Yes, same time at noon Eastern. We'll have our meeting for about an hour and a half.
All right.
So Marta, thank you, and thank Greg, and of course thank our speaker for a very enlightening presentation on leak detection.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot,
Thanks so
everyone.
much, Ken. Thank you, everybody.